At midnight, a woman in a soaked red dress stepped from the fog and asked for a ride across the river. She knew my name before I spoke. My route ran the old county roads, night shift, fairs in small towns, long stretches of field and water. A steel bridge split the county in two. Locals called it Bride Span. Grandmother warned me years ago. Do not cross after midnight. Do not speak your full name on the bridge. Tie red thread at the shrine, then walk away. I laughed then. I drive for a living now. The map sends me where the map wants. A fair south of the river pinged my phone at 11:52 p.m. I accepted without a thought. Fog rolled off flooded fields. Rice stalks bowed under a thin wind. Frogs fell silent as my headlights passed. A shrine box stood before the bridge. Old wood, a small gate. Red thread knotted along the rail like rows of tired mouths. A lantern inside burned low. Wax pooled and leaned. A paper sign hung crooked on a nail. 8 words in brushstrokes. Cross in silence. Do not look back. I stopped short of the bridge to kill time. The fare texted, "Where are you?" I typed, "Crossin' soon." A shape swayed inside the fog. First a pale oval, then a narrow face, then wet hair stuck to narrow shoulders. She raised one hand. Not a wave. A slow curl of fingers. A pale palm. I lowered the window an inch. Cold air slid in and dragged the smell of river silt and old flowers. North side, I asked. South, she said. Across the span. Her voice sounded steady. No tremor, no rush. Water dripped from the cuff of her sleeve. Drops hit the door and ran in thin lines, straight as veins. Name on the app? I asked. You know the name, she said. Your grandmother would know mine. The driver's mirror showed a line of red thread tied to my antenna. I had no red thread when I left home. The knot matched the knots on the shrine rail. Tight, neat, old. Payment after the bridge, she said. Stop at the far pullout. I nodded, and a memory slid in, thin and sharp. The story from years ago. A wedding party on the span before dawn. A carriage tipped by fog and fright. A bride in red silk fell into the river and never reached morning. Families tied red thread for passage. Drivers left coins and matches. No one spoke full names on the span. I met her eyes. The pupils looked wide and still. No light found depth there. A ring of dull gold sat on her finger, dented flat on one side. Start, she said. The hour moves. I pulled forward. The shrine lantern thinned to a bead. The bridge swallowed the hood. Metal hummed under the tires. Fog thickened until the guardrails turned to smears. Do not look in the rear view, she said. My hand rose toward the mirror by reflex. I held my breath and lowered the hand. Wind pressed against the glass like a slow chest. Water slapped pylons below in offbeats. Polite and wrong. Halfway across, the car lost speed without touch on the pedal. The needle fell, then held at 20. The road narrowed, though no plans had ever changed the span. My shoulders rounded in. The cabin felt a size smaller. Breathe slow, she said. Say nothing. She folded her hands in her lap. Wet silk stuck to her wrist bones. The ring flashed once, not bright, but thin, as if a sun hundreds of winters old crawled along the riverbed and found a way through. A new sound rose from the back seat. A faint patter, thread on glass, knots tightening against the rear window. Something tied lines from headrest to headrest. The air smelled like rainwater in a jar left sealed for years. I looked down at my knuckles. Red dye streaked the creases. Not blood. Thread rub. The same color as the shrine ribbons. She spoke again. name by name, who crossed with you before. No one, I said. A slow breath moved the fog inside the cabin. Not mine, not hers. A third pattern learned the shape of my lungs and answered each pull. You brought your grandmother's voice, she said. That counts. The hair on my forearms rose. Goose flesh rolled like water across both arms. The steering wheel turned a fraction on its own and then settled. Do not lie on the span, she said. Truth travels faster here. I swallowed. Grandmother told a story, I said. A drowned bride. Families left thread. They stopped when money came, she said. Faster roads, fewer shrines, names faded. She pointed through the windshield. Fog opened for an instant, and a narrow shape appeared on the walkway to the right. A woman in red leaned on the rail and looked down into black water. Another stood a dozen feet beyond, then another 10 in a row, 20. Each shape leaned and watched the same dark stripe. See them, she said, each name tied to a knot, each knot tied to a night. I blinked and saw only fog again, and still felt their heads tilt as one. The radio screen went black. The dash clock stopped at 12:03. A line of thread slid across the console and slipped around my wrist. Tight, precise. The knot settled against my pulse. Say your given name, she said. Only the given name. No family, no street, no year. I stared at the fog and held still, lips stuck to teeth, tongue heavy with copper. Silence answered for 10 breaths. 20. The line on my wrist warmed, then cooled. The knot nudged my skin with each heartbeat, like a tired finger taking a pulse. She waited, calm as winter water. I spoke the given name. The knot eased. Wind thinned. The car rolled a little faster. The guardrail returned as a real line and not a smear. The woman turned her face toward the glass. The window fogged from the outside. A shape formed on that fog. 3 strokes, then 2. Characters from a script older than this county. A blessing or a tally. A single name buys passage, she said. A full name buys a place. I did not ask place where. The back seat thread eased a fraction, then tied itself once more in a cleaner loop. Do you know mine? She asked. No. A small smile pulled one side of her mouth. Not joy. Memory. No one remembers the spoken name, she said. A bride takes a new one. Old names sleep underwater. Red cloth stirred near her ankles. The hem of the dress hung ragged and torn where lace met mud. A river leaf clung to the thread and would not fall. The fog broke again. The far shore showed through. A pullout waited under a bent willow. Someone had left tea lights on the curb in a careful line. Half burned down, fresh wax still white. Small moths circled and then landed to rest with folded wings. Slow, she said. Stop before the white line. I stopped. The thread on my wrist slid loose and fell into my palm. The knot sat small and tight, warm from skin. She opened the door and stood in the fog. No water fell from the hem now. The dress hung dry and light. Only the ring still carried a gloss like damp stone. Payment, she said. She placed a brass coin on the dash. Square hole in the center, a face worn thin. The weight felt wrong for the size. Heavy and tired. Keep red thread for the next crossing, she said. Tie one knot for yourself. Tie one knot for a stranger. She leaned toward the passenger mirror and spoke to the glass. Breath fogged the surface and did not clear. Words wrote themselves in the fog and held. Cross in silence. Leave one name behind. Whose name? I asked. Your choice, she said. A name still remembered, or a name ready to sleep. She paused, and the pause lasted long enough for the tea lights to burn a ring into their own wax. Do not speak a child's name. She stepped back. Fog took her. A line of wet footprints led to the willow and then stopped before the trunk. No next print, no smear. I sat without moving. The brass coin showed no date. The ring of the bridge thrummed in the tires as sound wound down. A pickup rolled onto the pullout. A man in a cap climbed down with a bundle of thread. He nodded with his chin at the willow. He tied 2 knots on the lower branch, one loose, one tight. You saw her, he said. I nodded. Leave the coin, he said. Do not spend river money. He looked at my wrist. Thread from the back seat? I nodded. He shrugged. Some rides earn a knot. Some rides earn a line. You got a line tonight. He set a clay bowl on the curb, poured tea from a thermos, and slid the bowl toward the willow shade. Steam rose and held a steady column, thin as a bone needle. Better to leave 2 candles, he said. One for crossing, one for coming back. I drove home on the long road that runs along the levee. The coin clinked once at each turn, then rested like a stone at red lights. The knot lay in the cup holder like a small heart made from string. Grandmother's house sat dark except for a lamp near the front door. A row of red thread hung on nails beside the frame. Some knots looked fresh. Some knots looked old enough to crumble when wind changed. Grandmother opened the door before my hand touched the knob. She stared at my wrist first, then at the coin. Leave both on the porch, she said. Do not carry river weight into this house. I placed the coin and the knot on the brick step. The coin did not cool. Warmth pulsed through the metal in small beats, like something under skin. Say your given name, she said. I did. Grandmother nodded once. Good. No middle, no family, never on a bridge. She walked to the kitchen and returned with a spool. She tore off 2 lengths of thread, one for me, one for a stranger I have not met. Go back before dawn, she said. Tie both. Then light 2 candles and step away without a word. I drove before first light. Fog thinned to gray along the fields. Birds started. A line of moths rested on the shrine rail with folded wings, like leaves that learned stillness. I tied 1 knot for myself, tight enough to hold, loose enough to cut when the time comes. I tied 1 knot for a stranger, a neat square with tails left long so a tired hand will find it fast. The lantern inside the shrine leaned again. Wax slid and pooled. A small flame found a new edge and rose. On my way back to the car, the phone screen lit without a ring. A ride request waited. Pick up. Mile 4, turnout. Destination, Bride's Span. The name field showed 5 red dashes. I let the screen go dark and locked the doors. The bridge hummed softly, like a throat before a prayer. I drove home by the levee road. A shadow walked the shoulder for 1 bend, then vanished at the spillway gate. The coin sat on my porch step when I returned. The knot lay beside it. Someone had set both on a folded square of paper. Cross in silence. Leave 1 name behind. Do not speak a full name on a bridge after midnight. Tie red thread for yourself. Tie 1 for a stranger. Subscribe for more original horror stories.